let me grab my lentils out.
So welcome back to Cooking Fun with Joanna. I am the host, Joanna Hodorowska with Nutrition in Motion. I'm a holistic nutritionist and a inflammation expert. So if you have pain, GI issues, or autoimmune issues, an anti-inflammatory diet would be really helpful. So we are introducing the Indian menu for tonight. And it is spiced onion kaftas, which I actually, when I made it, it's much easier than it seems. And it's actually easier to make them into little pancakes. So we're going to make them into pancakes. And they're also going to make a lentil dal with roasted garlic. And because I was away this weekend, I froze my roasted garlic. And so now I've got to wait for it to defrost. But I also did not soak the lentils, which you were supposed to. So go ahead and grab a big pot, kind of like a 6-quart pot. Measure out 1 cup of dry lentils and then put in 2 cups of liquid. And we might have to add another half a cup, but at least let it soak for a little bit. And we're just gonna actually just turn that on because it takes a good 30-40 minutes for it to cook.
Okay. What do you say?
So I'm gonna let you do that first.
Okay.
Because normally it's like, okay, we soak it and then it's only 20 minutes to cook. We didn't soak them, so it's going to take us a little bit longer. So we're going to actually start cooking that now. So take a 1 cup of, or it could even be 3/4 of a cup of lentils, and then do 2 cups of water. And you could do broth as well. So your ingredients for the lentils are basically the lentils. And we're going to be putting some stuff on the side and actually putting it in. And that's going to have an onion. I know you and I don't like green chilies, so we're not putting green chilies in there because we don't like spicy. Then there's some chopped fresh ginger, which I forgot to pull out of my refrigerator. Some roasted garlic paste. So we're going to take the roasted garlic and actually mash it into a paste. Then some cumin, coriander, a splash of lemon juice, and then some ground pepper and cilantro sprigs or parsley, because I don't like cilantro. So I'm going to use parsley. If you want to use cilantro.
I'm using parsley.
Yeah, I have never liked cilantro, so I'm going to stick with parsley. I'm going to like that part. The spiced onion kafta, once we actually turn that on, we're going to go to the onion part. So we're going to actually peel like 3 or maybe 4 of these large onions. And we're going to slice them into half moons. And then we're going to put that all into a pot. We're going to put the spices in with it and a little bit of salt. And we're just going to actually let it sit there for a little while. Then we're going to add the chickpea flour. And then we're going to make the onions and the other spices to saute them in the pan and put them in with the lentils. Following me?
Yeah, sort of, kind of.
So do you have your lentils already measured?
Yep, they're done and they're in the pot.
All right, so let's just turn that on because it's going to be at least 40 minutes. So put that on medium.
Right.
Put it on medium because we need it to start boiling. And then we can turn it down. But I'm going to go ahead and put the timer on so that we know. I'm going to put it for 35 minutes because then we can check it and add water and add whatever else we need to add.
Now, how much roasted garlic do we need?
3 tablespoons is what it says for the whole thing. If you don't have 3 tablespoons, that's
okay,
fine
perfect.
too.
Okay. Now I do have my little baggie. So.
Okay. So that makes it easy. So we're going to let that do what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
And then we're going to, because we have to let we have to actually cut the onions and let them kind of bleed out some of the liquid so that the things, so that it's all sticks together better. But I did actually make this, and according to the recipe, I find it quite comical that you're supposed to slice it all. Let me pull up I'm going to start with 3 onions and see how far that gets me.
Okay, and we're slicing them, right?
We're cutting it in half and then obviously taking the rest of the peel off. Right. Making it into half moons, but you're making them about I mean, as thin as you can make them, basically. You don't want them too thick because otherwise they'll never bleed out, so to speak. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I'm cutting the onion. So I cut it in half. I'm going to chop off the end, and we're going to peel off that skin.
Right.
Make sure that the tail is still attached, but we want to make sure that, I don't know if you can see it, but you want to make sure that that fine layer of stuff is off. And I actually save these for when I make my bone broth, so I'm going to save the onion ends. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your, I like the big butcher knife because I can handle it better, and make sure it's sharp. If it's not sharp, I think I'll do that now. Because it makes it, the sharper your knife, the easier it is to slice.
Right.
So you're basically going to make like 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch slices. Oh, that made it so much easier. So make sure you sharpen your knife. Now the key is you want to just dig your thumb and index fingernail into the end of the onion so that it doesn't slip, because it gets a little challenging closer to the end.
Yeah.
But you don't want to go all the way to the end because, you know, sometimes your finger slips under there. And that would not be a good thing.
You don't want to make yourself the main ingredient.
And so you're just transferring that into a big bowl. And I still have the old-fashioned Pyrex bowl, but this thing is awesome. It works great. So you're going to do this with 3 onions.
Okay.
I have 3 large onions, so if you have smaller onions, you might have 4. But I ended up buying, you know, a couple bags of these monsters so that I wouldn't have to cut as many. So again, you're just peeling off that skin plus an extra layer and making sure that that fine slippery layer is off. And then you're just gonna slice it. So I made these the other week and it's actually really tasty. I was very surprised at how easy it was and how delicious it was. And the mint sauce, that you do have yogurt in this with the mint. It is so stinking good together. So that's 1 onion, at least for me. And if your eyes are starting to bleed because of the or tear, I should say, they shouldn't be bleeding. I have heard that you can put onions into the refrigerator, and that'll limit the amount of the, I don't even know what chemical it is that they let out.
I forget the name. I forget the name of it. Something acid.
Yeah, I'm sure it's something acid, but that something acid,
like sulfuric acid or something.
I don't think it's sulfuric acid, but
sulfuric acid. It's something. It's something related to sulfuric acid, but it's not sulfuric acid. I just can't remember the name of it.
Either way, there are actually goggles that you can buy.
I know.
But putting it in the refrigerator is another option. Another option is get a family member that wears contact lenses.
I've also done it running it under cold water, and that seems to help too. Once you have the peel off and then you run it under cold water.
Yeah. But you know, for whatever reason, these onions seem to be not causing a problem. So I'm gonna just keep slicing along.
And I've also heard like the fresher your onions, the less it will make your eyes tear.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of times it's like the older they are, the less they tear. And then, you know, you would think that.
I just guess it depends on the onion too.
I think it depends on the onion, but it's I don't think that they fall into the what you think they should be doing category. So I would anticipate that fresh is actually more problematic.
Yeah, it would be more intense. Yeah,
I would think it's more of an issue, but you know, I seem to be doing fine with these, and they're pretty fresh. Maybe I think I actually ended up getting organic onions, which, no, they're just yellow onions. I just got yellow onions and they seem to be fine. And if, you know, one thing that you can do right now also is you can cut up a half an onion and save that for later. We're gonna saute that with the with some other things. And rather than cutting an onion again,
Yeah.
maybe you do 2.5. Maybe you do 2.5 now. You know, the challenge with the recipe that I have, it says 1.5 pounds. Well, I don't know how many pounds of onions that
Yeah,
is.
because it depends on the size of the onion.
Well, it depends on the size of the onion for sure, but you know, what's 1.5 pounds? Probably 3 onions, you know?
Yeah, about that, I'm guessing.
That's what I'm guessing too, so. But the cool thing about this one too, this is what I did last time, is instead of making all of the, I'm just gonna call them Kafta pancakes, instead of making it all at one time, I actually saved the onions as is, and I just refrigerated them and fried up a fresh batch the next day.
Right. Well, you know what I like doing too is, especially like if I know I'm going to be cooking them anyway, or like throwing them in like stew or a soup or something, is, you know, if I go to a party and they have a party tray and they have, you know, the sliced onions that, you know, and half the time they just sit there and I'm like, is anybody taking those or doing anything? And
right, they're all decorative, right?
if they say no, I'm like, can I take them home? Because then they go right in the freezer, and then when I want to make a stew or a soup,
I used to do that at
onions
parties
or
where
something.
I would do that with the kale, because I would use that as a garnish and something to put all the things on top of. And so I would ask them, well, what are you doing with the kale? And they're like, nothing. What do you want it? I'm like, sure. So I always ended up going home with these bags, and I mean bags of kale. And it was awesome.
Hey, you know, if you can save yourself time later on.
Well, I look at it as it's, you know, it's otherwise it's food waste.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Or like sometimes too, if it's fresh, when you get some of those fruit basket things,
Right.
it depends. A lot of times, like those edible arrangement things, they have kale in them, or, you know, it just depends. Now I know, you know, because originally they used to do like styrofoam, and then now I notice they're not even doing the kale. They're doing like cheap, crappy, like head of iceberg lettuce or something. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to eat that.
No, but yeah, when it's the kale, I'm like, yeah, I can either cook it or I can stick it into a smoothie. But
Now, or you know what?
Throw it away. I'm like, no, don't throw it away. I'm gonna use it. And actually, when I was at lunch meetings, with the and they would have kale, you know, it's like, here, build your own sandwich. And I literally would be like, well, I don't eat bread. So I would actually take that kale off the bottom of it and make it, like, use that as a wrap.
Right, exactly, which is great. And yeah, my cousin when she makes her, what do you call it?
One more onion and now my eyes are starting to hurt.
Yeah, when she makes her clams and stuff, she actually puts the kale on top, and then when they open up and the kale's all cooked and they're like inside the shell and everything.
Okay. So this last half of the onion, I'm actually gonna dice it, because it's gonna go into the lentils.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah,
I'm gonna keep that on the side here just because. If I'm gonna cut onions, I might as well just get it all over with now. But this will be for the lentils. All right. Chop.
Yeah, I know. When I started, I had all little half moons, and then I didn't realize we were dicing this up. So I'm just taking.
Well, I'm just dicing the last half because that's really all we need for that.
Let's take half of this and, you know, dice this up. So.
All right. So now I'm gonna move this over because I don't really need it. onions, and we're gonna add the spices. So it is a teaspoon of sea salt. So here's a teaspoon. Oh. Why don't I make it easy for myself and use the side that has this with a spoon? And sometimes it's amazing, you know, I do things and I'm like, there's an easier way, really.
I don't know what happened. It was in the cabinet. It was broken. I don't know what the
All
hell
right,
happened.
so we're gonna put a teaspoon of salt on here. I'm gonna pick up the 2 pieces of rice and put them back in. I actually put rice into my salt so it doesn't get all wet and sticky.
Okay, I'm just catching up with you here. Hang on.
No problem. The next thing you're gonna put in.
Okay, so the salt first. Is that the sea salt?
Yeah, I put sea salt in. So it's a teaspoon of sea salt,
Okay.
a teaspoon of coriander. And last week I actually bought all fresh stuff. So now I've got fresh everything.
And you're
Well,
adding
maybe not
this
everything,
into the onions, right?
into the onions. This is all going straight into the onions. So 1 teaspoon of coriander. I'm just going to put that on the side so I don't have to look at it anymore. 1 teaspoon of ground cumin. I think I'm going to take the lid off of this thing. Oh, look. I like cumin, so I'm going to put in a heaping teaspoon.
Okay.
Okay, so that's that.
Like inhaling it.
Don't do that. Please don't do that. And then you're putting in, it says a 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, but you can be generous on that one too. I did 3/4. And then it says 3 tablespoons of parsley. My parsley is a little dried because I left and it dried out in the refrigerator because I keep it in a bag. Can you see it's like this mesh bag?
Oh yeah.
So I mean it's nice because then it doesn't, because usually it gets all slimy.
Hi, Joanna.
Hi, Steve.
How you doing?
So you're just gonna cut.
Let him out of his cage.
So you're doing 3 tablespoons
Okay,
of the parsley. If you like cilantro, you can put cilantro, but we are parsley people over here. And it's interesting because my twin sister loves cilantro, and she's like, it's just parsley with a twist. But you know, that's the whole. Everybody has different taste buds, and typically with parsley, I mean, most people like parsley, but with cilantro, it's a love or hate.
It's not one of my favorite things.
The only thing I can eat cilantro in that I can tolerate is guacamole.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that if it's got cilantro in it, I seem to be okay with it and I can eat it. But that's so I did it by eyeball. That's about, I could always add more parsley. And then we're going to add 3/4 cup of the chickpea flour. Okay. So I've got the Bob's Red Mill chickpea flour.
Oh yeah.
I find it to be like the best flour for so much stuff. So you're doing 3/4 cup of the chickpea flour.
Yeah, it was interesting. They were interviewing him on like a couple years ago. They did an interview with him on TV, and his backstory is actually very interesting.
I can't remember his backstory, but I read about it.
Yeah, he was like an engineer or something, and then retired and didn't know what to do, and found this old mill and started this mill, and they've been going like gangbusters.
Yeah, well, they do a lot of things. So they do a lot of gluten-free things. They do ground flax seeds.
I mean, if you need it, they like in the food stores. If you need it, they have it.
Right. Well, I have a lot of his stuff. So now what you're gonna basically do is you're just gonna mix it all together.
Okay.
And we're just gonna kind of leave it here for a little bit because some of that juices have to kind of come out of it, and the salt is part of what is gonna get the juices to
Oh,
come out.
right.
So the interesting thing is the recipe says, you know, let it sit there for 45 minutes. And I'm like, no, that's not such a great idea. But it wasn't that part that really kind of threw me off. It was now rinse the onions and then put all the spices in, but you rinse the onions and then blot them dry on a paper towel. And I thought, why do I want to do all that? Let me just put all the ingredients together, mix it, let it soak together, and
Right.
you know, let whatever juices come out so that so that the flour kind of sticks to it all. So that's the only downside, is it kind of all sticks to your fingers initially. But just and so now we're just gonna kind of let it sit here for a little bit. And your computer keeps buzzing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on my cell phone, so I don't know. Yeah, that's.
Oh, so your messages are coming, your text messages
Yeah,
are coming
whatever's bleeping and blinging and.
All right, so now try to get the stuff off of your fingers and back in the pan, pot with the onions.
In the front, the first one, the curly parsley.
All right, so now you get to wash your hands, get all the stuff off. And when it comes to, you know, grabbing it later, actually we'll just spoon them on later. All right, are your lentils cooking yet?
Yeah, they look like they're, you know.
Lentils are turning yellow. I'm gonna actually cover it. I'm gonna cover it, but make sure that some of the air escapes. So the lid is gonna be just off center. Okay. So now this is gonna be for the onions. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make we're gonna kind of saute the onions and some of the spices, and that's all gonna go into the lentils when it's done.
Okay. So that little bit of the sliced onion that was left over.
We're gonna saute that now, yes.
Okay.
So yes, there is something to do with it, but I need to get the sunflower oil as well. So we're gonna use sunflower oil for cooking today. But I'm gonna put a little bit of the ghee, a teaspoon of the sunflower oil, but a tablespoon of the ghee.
Now are we doing these? Okay, we're doing these in a pot, not a pan, right?
Well, no. So this is just for the stuff that's going with the.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
So there's two ways you can think about this too, where I'm putting it in a pot because I was thinking, you know what, it might actually be easier to take what's the bowl of lentils and pour that into this that we're making now. I don't know what I'm thinking. So we're gonna make this, we're gonna put this on medium heat because you gotta get this to melt, and then we're gonna caramelize those onions.
Yeah, I just was trying to figure out what size pot to get out.
Smaller than what you did for the lentils.
Okay, that's what I did. Okay.
I'm gonna put the onions in there. We're also gonna put the roasted garlic in there later as well. But we have to let this kind of melt and simmer first. The sunflower oil is actually for the pancakes, the Kafta pancakes for later.
Okay, so what are we putting in this pot?
Onions and ghee.
Okay, so just the onions and the ghee. Okay.
Right, just the onions and ghee.
Okay. So
And
I was
we're
trying to
also
figure
going
out
to
where we were
add-
at because I lost you
Oh,
for a
we're gonna
second.
put the fresh ginger into it. Out of the refrigerator. Okay, that one's not so fresh. So this one's not that fresh, so I would not recommend using it. I would make a tea out of this kind of ginger.
And these onions are the other sliced onions, right?
Right, the one that you diced.
Okay, the diced onion. Okay.
So you're gonna take a slice of the ginger, and I'm not going to peel it, but I'm going to cut it into slices and then kind of cube it, but make them fairly narrow. Then you're gonna throw that all into with the onions.
Okay, so you said what, about a tablespoon or so of the,
Probably, the recipe calls for 1 tablespoon chopped ginger, so it's a tablespoon. So
Okay.
this may be a little bit more than a tablespoon, but I
yeah,
kind of like ginger. No, this actually looks almost like a heaping tablespoon. Can you see it?
yeah.
But I'm gonna put all that in there because, like I said, I like ginger, so. So we're just gonna let that saute, and then we're going to add a teaspoon of cumin. So this has some of the same spices. So we're gonna add a teaspoon of cumin into there. A teaspoon of the coriander. Coriander. And a teaspoon. No, we're gonna put the sea salt and black pepper into the lentils. Make sure you check the lentils. Sometimes they like to.
Yeah,
rise
I've been
above
kind
water.
of, yeah.
So I'm gonna stir mine. I'm actually gonna try a teeny bit of it just to see how cooked they are. I managed to soak mine for like 3 minutes before the class started. Mine are cooking faster than what the recipe says.
Yeah, I know. Mine are actually cooking a little faster too, so.
So I'm just gonna leave mine uncovered because they're actually cooked, but there's too much liquid in them. And I'm assuming yours probably looks the same.
Yeah, mine could actually use a little, they're not quite cooked, but so I'm gonna turn mine down and let the rest of the liquid absorb.
I'm gonna uncover mine
Yeah,
so
they're
that the
almost
liquid
cooked.
evaporates because mine are pretty cookie. All right.
Yeah, almost cooked, but all the liquid was absorbed, so I was kind of like,
Okay. Yeah, so turn yours down a teeny bit. Or
Yeah.
add a tablespoon of liquid. You can always do that too.
yeah, I just put like a little bit of liquid on the bottom. So the onions are cooking now down here.
Yeah, so the onions we're trying to caramelize them.
Okay.
So we're not stirring them too often. Mine are not caramelizing yet. They're still just getting translucent. So while we're waiting for that, we might as well make the tzatziki sauce, which is actually pretty easy. You just take a cup of plain yogurt, And I ended up, and then add mint and salt. Pretty simple. So, you ready to make the mint sauce?
Yeah, so we have the cup of yogurt.
You have a cup of yogurt, and it could be dairy yogurt or dairy-free. And I like the Kite Hill or the Forager. But I almost forgot, I got these last minute and Giant didn't have the Kite Hill or the Forager. So I was like, except for in vanilla. And I'm like, we're not adding another flavor into this.
Yeah, and I do not like the vanilla yogurt. I just like the plain unflavored.
Well, for that, you really want plain unflavored too, because you're adding mint. So you're
Yeah.
adding a teaspoon of mint to it.
I just don't like the fake vanilla taste that a lot of them, the vanilla is so fake, it's disgusting.
Right. So this one you can put a teaspoon or two of the mint. And then also a teaspoon of your parsley. And I'm actually going to put in more like a teaspoon and a half of the mint. And now I'll cut in a little bit of the parsley to it. My own version of dried parsley, right?
So nice. I was so surprised. I mean, I cannot believe my parsley and my mint just like exploded out there.
So when you see me later this week, if you need to
Yeah, I was
drop
gonna
some
say,
off.
do you want some? Because I'll bring some up for you later.
Sure, that would be awesome. So go ahead and stir the onions.
Yep, I just did.
And then we're just gonna let them sit there for again. And then you're also putting a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of salt into the sauce. Or into
Okay.
That's why you need plain. And you're just gonna combine it, and that's it. Pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the easiest thing to make.
Right, that's like the easiest part. But you know, like when you're waiting for other stuff to happen, you might as well make something else in the meantime. So that's all done. You don't have to even try it. It's all going to be yummy, and it's all just going to kind of blend together. It looks like,
Actually, it would be really good in this too.
what?
Add a chopped up avocado, squish in an avocado.
Maybe. I mean,
I love
yeah,
I love
I
doing
say
that.
maybe, and I say that hesitantly only because it's an Indian dish. Indian dishes don't typically have avocado.
Avocado, yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm
and it's
saying,
not to say that it wouldn't work, because it very
If you
well-
have leftover sauce, I'll have to try this if I have leftover sauce, because that's the only thing I know Steve won't eat the sauce, so.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take 5 or 6 of my semi-frozen roasted garlics and put it into the pot here. And normally I would just use a fork, but I'm gonna mash it with, actually a fork probably would still work better. But I'm gonna mash it with a potato masher and see if I can get them like mashed.
What's that, the garlic?
The garlic, yeah. But I'm putting
Okay,
it in with the.
mine's already smashed.
Well, if you don't have it smashed, you can just use a fork. But the challenge that I have is that mine was still frozen.
Yeah,
so if I
mine's
put it in
still
that
like,
pot,
yeah.
then it'll actually defrost. And now I can get it mashed. Make lots of noise. You guys can't hear me. So that's basically what the sauce looks like. Yours look like that too?
Okay. See.
I'm still waiting for mine to like caramelize. So at least now the garlic is at least kind of pasty in there. That's good. We're gonna let that sit there for another 5 minutes.
All right, there's my garlic and stuff and my onions.
Awesome. And with all the spices. So my lentils are still, they're still a little wet. You can see they're quite wet. So I'm gonna just leave it uncovered. And I already know that they're pretty much cooked. But I need that liquid.
Yeah, mine are done. I'm gonna turn mine off because they're done.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the liquids absorb, so I'm gonna turn them off.
All right. Once you're done with the with that sauce or with the onions, you just basically stir that into the pot of lentils. And then you're gonna just move the big frying pan onto wherever you have your.
Okay, so you're taking the onions
I'm taking the onions
and the
and
sauce.
putting them into my lentils. My sauce is too liquidy. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to put it on high. Let it boil sweet furiously. Because mine is so liquidy. So now we get the fun part of making the kaftas, the pancakes. Oh, one other thing, you want to put a splash of lemon juice into the lentils.
Okay,
Into the lentils. Literally a splash.
okay.
So now you're going to heat up the sunflower oil. You're going to put that into the big frying pan. And you definitely want it covered. The way that the recipe originally called for it was going to be like you're deep frying. So you definitely want to have a good coating across the bottom. Let that heat up. And I keep watching my my lentils. Now
Okay,
they're bubbling furiously. Hopefully they're
great.
not steaming up the screen here. But they're bubbling furiously. And see, look at that. It's 35 minutes. And I said your lentils would be done. So that's 35 minutes. So you can either use a spoon or a fork or both. You're gonna move your yogurt sauce to the side.
Yeah, I still have to add the yogurts into the lentils. Let me do that now.
No, you're not adding the yogurt to the lentils.
Oh, okay.
The yogurt is actually gonna go on top of the fried onion pancakes.
Oh, okay.
It's
All
a
right.
garnish.
I'm glad I clarified that.
Yeah, no, the lentils are pretty much done the way they are.
Okay, so they're pretty
Once
much
you
done.
fry it up, you put that in with the lentils. So now you're heating up the pan. And you could probably, take a big serving spoon and fork and mix it. All right, so there's my timer. And you can kind of mix the onions a little bit more and see if everything sticks together a little bit better. But I think if you let it sit for even longer, you might be able to roll them into little balls, but then you need a lot more oil. So this way we can make it into pancakes and they're actually quite tasty. So my oil looks like it's ready. So I'm going to take a big forkful of onions. This is going to be similar to like when you remember when we made the vegetable pancake.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be similar to that, where you actually have to shape the pancake. All right, so mine wasn't quite hot enough for all of this, but I'm still doing it anyway. And I would suggest smaller pancakes as opposed to bigger ones, but you know, however it turns out is however it's gonna turn out. So I've got one here that's a weird size and a weird shape. And I'm gonna make 5 of these. Oops. I think that's all that's gonna fit in my pan. I know, I can get another one in the middle. Woohoo, I can 6. When I made these, I think I ate like 5 of them that one night because they're so stinking good. I think I have to turn my heat up just a teeny bit because I had it on low. I need it more like medium. But it's going to be cooking for like 3 to 4 minutes per side. We want them brown instead of, you know, charred. I did that with one batch too. I accidentally left it on a little bit too long on one side.
Yeah, I did 4 because I still have a little bit more. So I'm like, I'll just make 2 more in another batch and then go do another batch with 2.
Yeah, or you can just make it tomorrow because I've got quite a bit left over. So I'm gonna just save this for tomorrow or the next day and just put some plastic over it and be done with it. But it should be starting to fry. Is yours frying?
Yeah.
Okay, good. My lentils are finally done. So I'm gonna pour in my spices and my onions. Mix it all there. Now I've got a burnt layer of lentils on mine. Oops.
Yeah, I had some that stuck too.
Yeah, it's all right. A lot of times, like if you just let it sit there, it'll all soften up. But the lentils now look like a big pile of mush. And then I think we didn't salt them, did we? So we need to put the salt and pepper on that. So then we mix it all again. Make sure it's all blended. And then of course, I think we have to try. All right, mine is I can hear my onions starting to sizzle. I'm gonna put a little bit of the lentils on a plate and cheat. Do a little taste test. See if it needs anything else. Ooh, it's too hot. Oh, it's good. This is actually better than the one that I made the first time. Very tasty. Did you try the lentils yet?
Not yet. I was gonna actually do that.
Try the lentils. I'm actually adding a little bit of extra ghee into mine just to make them even more rich. And a lot of times in Indian cuisine, they will add ghee, like a pat of ghee at the end when they serve it. All right, so that's done. Now let's see how our little pancakes are doing. I don't remember which one was my first one that I put down, so just randomly take one, flip it. It's not ready yet. Totally not ready. So I'm gonna flip it back. So you really want them to be browned. Mine are not browning yet. How are yours doing?
So I'm looking to see.
Check like one of the things that are falling to the side and see if that's
Yeah,
actually
they
browning.
are. Yeah, they are starting to brown a little bit.
So you probably have another minute or two before you flip.
Yeah.
I think I have like 3 minutes before mine flips. 'Cause mine isn't even starting to brown, or mine's just barely starting. And then I want you to walk outside and walk back in, and then you'll notice all the scents of the house. It always smells better after you leave and come back.
Oh, I know. It's amazing.
Yeah, when you're in it, you don't realize how flavorful it is.
Mm.
Did you flip yours yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that now. Oh wow, you can really taste the ginger in the lentils.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I just flipped my center one, and that's pretty close to how it's supposed to be. But it's supposed to be a
Yeah.
little bit darker than that. So I'll just brown the other side more than this one.
Yeah, and I think I figured out which one was my first pancake.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I started with the one I'm like, oh yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, usually the first one is the one that's the darkest, right?
Yeah.
Or it should be. I think I still have to turn my heat up even higher because mine are still like pale little buggers. Well, at least I'll have cooked onions. I'm gonna turn mine up even higher. See if that does it. And then I'm gonna try to flatten mine a little bit too. See if that. does
That's what I
anything.
ended up doing was I ended up flattening them a little bit.
But it looks good. This is the fun part, right? Where you just sit and wait.
They sit and wait and watch.
Sit and wait and watch. Is it ready? Is it ready? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet?
5 minutes.
I think part of the key to these two is that you want to cook them on a higher heat and they won't absorb as much of the oil.
Yeah, that's true. If you get them really hot and fast.
Yeah. So now mine are sizzling, so that's a good thing. Let's try this one over here and see if I can. Yeah, that's definitely what I needed to do. So I'm gonna keep mine on here for another minute or two and then flip mine over again and see if I can't get them browned a little bit more.
Yeah, mine are pretty brown, so I'm gonna start taking them out of the pan.
See, you guys are ahead of me this time.
Yeah, I know. Just like a
Usually
miracle.
I'm the one that's like, wait.
I know.
Today it's my turn to be behind. But this is how, that's how cooking is sometimes. You just don't know exactly how it's gonna end up. But I definitely need my big fork to kind of assist in getting these little pancakes onto the fork or onto the spatula so that I can flip it. All right, this looks starting to look more like it's supposed to. So are you guys all ready for tasting it? It's all on your plate?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna at least put my lentils on the plate. I'm gonna nab one of my pancakes here. I think the one in the center seems to be the one that's cooked the best. So it's gonna be basically the lentils and the potato. It looks like a potato pancake, but it's an onion pancake.
Okay, so a
Then
little
you
bit of,
then you put a dollop of the mint sauce on it. How did yours turn out?
I'm tasting mine.
You're tasting it?
I was gonna taste a little bit.
Because I have my teeny tiny plate, so I just got one pancake.
Oh, that is good. That is good.
Isn't it good?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who would have
Yeah,
thought
that is
onions could be tasty?
That is good.
And the yogurt sauce kind of tames the heat.
Yeah, it does. I think I might have put a little too much ginger in the lentils. But it's good.
Maybe put some of the mint sauce on the lentils too.
Yeah, because I think I overdid. I think I put a little too much ginger. I mean, I like it. Yeah, and my other two little pancakes cooking over here.
This is how I actually prefer them, where they're a little bit browner.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yep, that's how mine came out. Yeah, they're a little
Yeah,
bit
so
browner.
that's when I find that they're really, really like divine.
Yeah.
So the one that I have now is it's still really good, but the other ones are that you can taste the chickpea and it's crispy and it's kind of cool. But yeah, there's dinner. 45 minutes. No, that took an hour.
Actually, it is good with the yogurt sauce. It kind of like smooths out the extra ginger.
Right. Awesome. So our next class in 2 weeks, we're gonna go scallops and spring vegetables with an olive caper sauce.
Oh wow.
So, I know this is what it's supposed to look like.
Oh, that looks good.
I don't know if we'll get that fancy, but we're gonna have scallops with spring vegetables. We're gonna basically roast asparagus and carrots and make it with an olive caper sauce. So that'll be in 2 weeks. Today is the 11th. 2 weeks is the 25th. So the 25th, scallops and spring vegetables and a caper olive oil sauce. All right.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. So bon appetit, enjoy. And if you have any
Thank you.
questions, you can always make comments below. Show us how yours turns out. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for future classes, you can just reach out to me, Joanna Hodorowska, at nutritioninmotion.net. Enjoy and bon appetit.
Thank you.